you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to another video. Today we are playing some Raid Shadow Legends and we are going to be talking about the top 5 epics in the game. One of the epics I'm actually including in this list is one that I'm going to give you for free. I can also give you a legendary champion for free as long as you download the game using my link down below. You're going to start your game off with Elenaril on day 1, who is a awesome legendary champion. And then at level 25, I'm also going to give you Yugo, who is another really good epic champion. So why not start your game off even easier? The first champion we're going to start off with is Yugo, who is possibly my favorite one on this list because she is a champion that you are going to use from the beginning of the game to the end for so many things in the game, honestly. Such a good champion. So she is a support epic, and first skill has a chance of placing a leech debuff, which is really great that you're able to place, especially on a first skill. Her second skill does attack all enemies, but has a chance of doing the decreased defense. So having an AoE defense break is huge. On top of it, has that chance of blocking buffs for 2 turns. And that chance is even going to increase for every alive enemy. This brings us into the third skill, which removes all heal reduction debuffs from all allies and removes a random debuff from all allies, but also heals them by 20% of the champion's max HP. The nice thing about this skill is that if, let's say, all allies are dead, then instead, she's going to actually revive them with 50% HP and fill their turn meters by 50% instead. So this is one of those skills that she does have a revive in it, or instead she's just going to buff and heal. Either way, it is a great skill. Also has a passive where it places a 30% increased speed buff and a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn whenever the champion's last living ally is killed. So having this be a passive and having them be killed does give Yugo a chance to do the third skill here and allow that revive to happen. So Yugo, amazing for a few different reasons. Not only has the heal, has that removing of the debuff, has an AoE defense break, but has a bit of the support along with the leech. So with Yugo being that support, you do want to build fast if you can, but also with high HP. But again, a unit that you are going to use from beginning to end and possibly taking the #1 spot on this list. Next on this list is going to be Geomancer, who is an epic attack type, and looking at the aura, increases ally HP in all battles by 25%, which is not a bad thing at all. The nice thing with Geomancer is the first skill is already an AoE, so attacking all enemies and having a chance of decreasing the accuracy for 2 turns. That's really nice because if you can decrease their accuracy, they're landing less of the debuffs on you, and having it be an AoE is also pretty big. Second skill removes all buffs from a target enemy and then attacks them. So you can have that cleanse and then attacking them. Steals all buffs instead if the target is under HP burn debuff placed by this champion, and reduces the cooldown of Quicksand Grasp by 2 turns if the target is killed by the skill while under HP burn debuff placed by this champion. So the nice thing with this skill is that there is other things that can potentially happen in this skill, but looking at the third skill, which kind of goes along with the second skill here, fully depletes the target's turn meter, fills this champion's turn meter by the amount the target lost. So essentially, you're stealing that turn meter, and then you have that 75% chance of placing the HP burn and a 25% weaken debuff on the target for 3 turns. So you'll see if you're using the third skill, you place that HP burn, and then we come over to the second skill. If you were able to actually place that HP burn, now it's going to steal all the buffs from that target. So overall, Geomancer, like, that's a huge thing if you're factoring in all these skills. On top of it, does have a passive where it's going to decrease the damage all allies receive by 15%, deflects that damage onto each enemy under that HP burn debuff, and if there's multiple champions on the team with that skill, only one will activate. Whenever this champion is attacked, it also deflects 30% of the damage instead. When deflecting damage on each enemy hit, it has a 30% chance of dealing additional damage equal to 3% of the target's max HP. I feel like just by looking at all these skills alone, you see why Geomancer is so good. And with Geomancer, it's not a champ I would necessarily use in PvP like Arena, but for PvE, Geomancer is going to shine everywhere. You can use in so many different places, so many of the dungeons in Clan Boss, and it's really all the skills that are great. It's a champion that you look at that you want to be able to summon and you want to use on your team because he is really so versatile and there's so many places that you can use him. Next, let's look at Deacon Armstrong, who is a epic support and does have an aura where it's going to increase the speed in all battles by 19%. So we have a universal speed lead, which we absolutely love. So first skill is going to attack one enemy 2 times, each hit having a chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. So as we said, having leech on a first skill is always really, really nice. Second skill is an AoE attacking all enemies and has an 80% chance of placing the decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So again, having a champion that can do an AoE defense break is always really nice. But it's kind of the third skill here being the reason that we really like this champ. The other skills are good too, but the third skill fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15% and grants an extra turn. Especially if you can get cooldown on this. This skill right here gives you a lot of manipulation on the battlefield and a lot of that crowd control, because you're able to decrease the turn meter of them while you're filling up your turn meter and gaining an extra turn to be able to go back into your skill 1 or your skill 2. So for a support unit, he is really, really great. And I think in dungeons he will shine, and he's a unit that you can use in PvE or PvP. So you can use him in things like arena, but you're also going to be able to use him in a variety of different dungeons. So ideally you are going to want to build him to be kind of quick, have him be fast, have him be able to do all these things that he needs to do to be able to manipulate the battlefield. Next, let's look at Vogoth, who is an HP epic type. So looking at the aura is going to increase the ally accuracy in all battles by 40. So having more accuracy if you need it is nice. First skill is going to attack one enemy 3 times. And the great thing about this skill is that each hit has a 30% chance of increasing the duration of a random debuff on the target by a turn. That's really nice because if you're able to extend those debuffs, especially the fact that you're going to be able to attack an enemy 3 times and have that chance to do so. Second skill is the AoE attacking all enemies, having a 60% chance of placing a provoke debuff on all enemies for a turn, and having a provoke is huge. On top of that, also has a 60% chance of placing the 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns on targets who received the provoke debuff. So as long as you've provoked them, you're also going to decrease their attack. So when they are actually hitting Vogoth, it is going to do less damage, which is nice. But he also has 2 passives. And that's one of the unique things about this champion. So the first passive, whenever this champion is attacked, he's going to heal all allies by 50% of the damage received. So again, think about him actually having the provoke. So if you have the AoE provoke on them and they're hitting him, Vogoth is actually going to heal the allies every time that he's hit. And only heals by 25% of the damage received from boss attacks. This champion only receives half of the heal that other allies receive. So Vogoth will get some of it, but it's really supportive for your champions itself, and it works really well with that provoke skill. The second passive, when attacked, places a leech debuff on the attacker for 2 turns, and we've already talked about why we like leech. It's a really good debuff on there. If the attacker is under the provoke debuff, then it has a 70% chance of increasing the cooldown of a random skill on the attacker by 2 turns. Occurs once per attack. So again, this all comes back to why this provoke is so good, and if you're able to place it, then you're going to have this passive plus the other passive. And the nice thing with the one that's actually healing is that there is no cooldown on it, so you're not necessarily having to use your books to take advantage of it. So overall, Vogoth being a really nice HP type, ideally because of that provoke in there, but how it also works with those passives. Last on this list is going to be Dark Kael, who is an attack epic. So looking at his first skill, does attack an enemy 3 times, each hit having a chance to instantly activate 2 poison debuffs or a poison debuff and an HP burn debuff. The second skill attacks all enemies, having a 75% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Each critical hit also has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target for a turn. So having this be an AoE, but having that chance to extend debuffs would be really nice, especially if you were landing that poison or the HP burn from the skill 1. Third skill has a 75% chance of placing 3 5% poison debuffs and 25% poison sensitivity debuff on the target for 2 turns. On top of this, does have a passive which decreases the crit rate of enemies under 2 or more poison debuffs by 15%. And if there's multiple champions on the team with the skill, only one will activate. So that's fine. So if anyone else has that same skill, then only one is going to activate, which is totally fine. However, looking at Kyle and the potential you have to do with this poison is amazing. Kyle, this Dark Kyle, is also going to go really well with Elenaril, who again is that free legendary you can get by using my link. So you'll see how they work well together. And with Kyle's actual skills, I keep saying Kyle, but Dark Kyle, having the poison and everything makes him a really great contender for things like Clan Boss. He will really shine in there. It's going to be really nice in there. And also being able to decrease the crit rate of enemies if they're under the poison debuff is going to be huge for your team, because then it's causing less damage on you, which can be something that really does take your team out. So again, use him in places like Clan Boss. Also really good in dungeons. He'll shine in something like Ice Golem or Dragons, for example. So definitely universal for multiple places in the game. But having the potential out of these skills and having all that poison makes him really good, and I had to include him. Again, it was so hard to only pick 5 epics, so I want to hear from you guys. Comment down below. Let me know who are some of your favorite epics in this game, not including voids, because again, that will be a separate video. So be sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. And again, remember to use my download link to actually download Raid Shadow Legends, so you're able to get Elenaril, but also able to get Yugo, who was on this list. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Next level.